This is a vivid, emotionally charged story about betrayal, divorce, and quiet revenge, told from the perspective of a man blindsided by both his wife and best friend. The writing is gripping, and the steady build of tension, along with the narrator's internal resolve, gives it the tone of a psychological drama or noir monologue. If you're considering turning this into a short story, novel, or even a script, it's already got strong bones. A clear narrative arc, shock, unraveling strategy, quiet retaliation, compelling character motivations, control, pride, betrayal, retribution. A distinctive voice, measured, reflective, coldly precise. People always thought Olivia and Brian were the perfect couple, but behind closed doors, the truth leaked through the thin walls of their rented home. Yes, rented. Arguments erupted at all hours, shouting matches loud enough for the neighbors to hear. That dream house Olivia had flaunted during the divorce, she'd had to sell it. Turns out, she couldn't afford the upkeep on her own. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from an old neighbor. "Marcus, you won't believe this," she said, laughter bubbling in her voice. "Olivia and Brian had the landlord banging on their door this morning. They're 3 months behind on rent." I leaned back in my chair, a quiet smile spreading across my face. "They're trying to act like it's nothing," she continued, "but you can tell they're drowning. Poetic, really. The life they built on betrayal was buckling under its own weight. Meanwhile, I had rebuilt. My career was flourishing. I'd poured myself into my work and found purpose in the process. New projects, new partnerships, a steady rise in income. I didn't chase revenge. I just focused on creating something real, something lasting. Then one evening, Olivia texted me. "Hi, Marcus. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to check in." I stared at the screen. Friendly? No. She was fishing. I played along. "Things are great, Olivia. Business is booming. How about you?" Her reply came fast. "Oh, things are a bit tight financially, but we're managing." Managing. That was generous. A week later, I saw her outside a client building. She looked tired, worn, down, not the confident woman I once knew. "Marcus," she called, uncertainty in her voice. "Olivia, what brings you here?" She hesitated, twisting her purse strap. "Things have been hard. I thought maybe we could catch up." "I'm a little busy," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "But I hope things improve for you." She smiled, but the cracks were there, visible. I walked away. And that was the moment I knew. I didn't need revenge. Life was handling that for me. My income? Over $500,000 now. But I didn't flaunt it. I let her believe I was still the man she dismissed. Her ignorance worked in my favor. I moved into a sleek downtown apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows, smart tech, skyline views, built with my own hands, no bitterness, no baggage. Occasionally, I'd hear whispers from mutual friends about unpaid bills, a dinner party where the power was cut mid-meal. Olivia humiliated, Brian scrambling for excuses. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. This wasn't about rubbing salt in wounds. It was about balance. They'd tipped the scales. Life was just correcting them. One day, I ran into Brian at a coffee shop. He looked wrecked, messy, hunched over his laptop, scrolling job listings. He saw me, stiffened. "Marcus," he said. "Brian," I replied. "How's it going?" He fumbled. Good, just busy with work." "Work, huh?" I said, letting the silence stretch. He muttered something about needing to get back to it and fled. It was all I needed to see. The messages from Olivia grew more frequent. First vague, then more direct. "Marcus, I know we've had our differences, but I could really use a friend." A friend. The irony. I didn't reply. Then came the plea. "Just a small loan to help us through." I nearly laughed. "After everything?" She wanted help? I'm sorry to hear that, I replied, but I can't help. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Please, just this once. I left it on red. Then came the call. Marcus, you'll love this, a friend said. They've been evicted. Couldn't pay the rent. Landlord finally had enough. Now they were in some dingy apartment on the outskirts of town. It was over. The fantasy they'd curated online, fancy dinners, fake vacations, curated smiles, had unraveled. The designer clothes were gone. Brian was jobless. Olivia, once so smug, now barely holding it together. And me? I didn't say a word. Because revenge doesn't always need a roar. Sometimes silence speaks loudest. This passage reads like the emotionally charged climax of a revenge-driven character arc, raw, reflective, and laced with poetic justice. It paints a vivid narrative of betrayal, consequence, and empowerment, where the protagonist finds resolution not through retaliation, but by holding firm boundaries and letting time expose truth. Here are some key strengths and thematic observations. Tone and voice. The narrator's calm, composed tone contrasts with the desperation of Olivia and Brian, reinforcing the power dynamic shift. Character development. Marcus emerges as someone who has grown past the pain, choosing self-respect over revenge, making his refusal to help more impactful. Karma as theme. It leans heavily on the theme of karma needing no push, letting the natural fallout serve as poetic retribution. Narrative closure. By the end, Marcus's sense of closure and freedom is earned, not handed to him, making the resolution satisfying. If you're looking to turn this into a short story, publishable piece, or even part of a longer narrative, I can help edit or format it accordingly. Brian was just as unreliable as Olivia. Last I heard, he was couch surfing, unable to hold down a job or a relationship. Olivia, on the other hand, was left picking up the pieces of her shattered life. She had no job, no savings, and no one left to turn to. Her family had distanced themselves, exhausted by her constant drama. Even her friends had slowly drifted away. The life she had fought so hard to build with Brian had turned to ash. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma had done all the work. There's a certain satisfaction in watching people like Olivia and Brian inevitably implode. They believed they could manipulate and betray their way into happiness. But life has a way of humbling people like that. While they were tearing each other apart, I was thriving. My career was taking off, my peace was unshakable, and my future had never looked brighter. They say the best revenge is living well. And by that measure, I had already won. The funny thing about hitting rock bottom, when you've been betrayed, humiliated, and discarded, is that you discover just how resilient you really are. For me, the divorce wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a fresh start disguised as devastation. Olivia and Brian had burned every bridge behind them, but I was already laying the foundation for something better. I made myself a promise after the divorce. I wouldn't let their betrayal define me. I would rise, not for revenge, but for peace, and that's exactly what I did. The first step? Investing in myself. I moved into a sleek penthouse in the heart of the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, and a skyline view that reminded me daily of how far I'd come. It wasn't just a home, it was a statement, a symbol of a new chapter. Freed. From the weight of Olivia's criticism and Brian's deception, I threw myself into my work with renewed energy. My clients noticed. New contracts came in. My income soared past $500,000 a year. Then came the speaking engagements, partnerships, and investment opportunities. Each success was a quiet victory, a reminder of everything I was capable of. Socially, I began to rebuild too. Old friends reconnected, new ones entered my life. People who valued me for who I was, not what they could get from me. I started attending events, expanding my network, even taking weekend trips just for fun. But the most profound transformation was internal. For years, I had drained myself trying to meet Olivia's impossible standards. In the process, I had lost sight of my own worth. Now, I was reclaiming it. Therapy helped. My therapist once told me, "You're not responsible for other people's choices, only how you respond to them." That became my mantra. I also began exploring my creative side. Photography, writing. I started a blog, part personal journal, part professional insight. It resonated with people. My story of rebuilding, of turning pain into progress, struck a chord. From time to time, I'd still hear whispers about Olivia and Brian. More debt, more drama, more regret. They'd become a cautionary tale among our old friends. "Marcus," a mutual friend said over coffee once, "I don't know how you stay so calm. If I were you, I'd be furious." I just shrugged. "What's the point? They're living their karma. I don't need to add to it." And it was true. Watching them unravel while I flourished wasn't just satisfying. It was liberating. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need resentment. I had something better, peace. Of course, there were still quiet moments of reflection. Late nights in my penthouse, gazing out at the city lights, I'd think about everything I'd been through, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger. Moving past it hadn't been easy, but I did it. And in the process, I found a version of myself I never knew existed, stronger, wiser, more confident. Life hasn't stopped testing me. It never does. But now I face every challenge with a clarity and strength I never had before. Losing Olivia and Brian hurt, but looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Their departure didn't just mark an ending, it gave me my freedom. These days, every step feels like progress. I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. And the best part? I don't need anyone's